Okay, on to the next one. Fuel. Fuel's big, guys. When I say guys, I mean guys and girls, fellow humans. Fuel's huge. Fuel is big. Uh, fuel is one of your largest expenses. Fuel is driver pay is usually higher, but then fuel is just it's one of the biggest things you spend money on every single day. I guess I already mentioned that. Getting ahead of myself. Just too excited. Even just a little savings every day can make big, big changes for your business. And again, through this entire section, need you to put the business owner hat on, not the driver hat on. Even a 5%, let's say you could do something to save yourself 5% of fuel economy of increase of 5%. And these are just rough numbers. At this recording, we're talking about $5 plus fuel. It's actually like almost $6 now. So just throw out some nice round numbers. Take all the numbers I put in here, not as gospel, not as everything, just back away from it a little ways and look at it from a bird's eye view and just put it together as a concept. Okay. But 5% of $75,000 fuel bill every year is $3,700. It's quite a bit. Of course, if you will trip plan and plan where you're going to fuel stop, that's a big part of that. There's also a bunch of fuel apps and that type of stuff. Cards, you can get discounts. Certain fuel cards, you can only go certain places. So just be sure you don't get a fuel card and then get yourself into a bind somewhere. So this truck ought to be pretty good on fuel. But the things I'm going to point out aren't the nickel and dimes. Let's cut the dead wood. Let's not trim all the little dead branches back. Let's just chop it off at the base wherever it's the biggest bang for your buck is going to be in these next two things that I share with you. Idling. Of course, I'm mostly talking about OTR stuff, but even excess idling, at the construction site and whatever, it adds up. So if a truck idles for 10 to 12 hours a day, depending on the truck and depending on all the factors, you can burn 10 gallons a day. And at $5 a gallon, that's $50 a day. Now, again, these numbers, it all depends on your situation and how much you are or aren't idling. Are you running northern states, southern states? It all depends. But if you multiply this all through the year, it could be $10,000 to $15,000 just to idle. $10,000 to $15,000 in idling costs. Just want to make sure you got that. Could cost you $15,000 to idle. Talk about literally just lighting fuel on fire. And sometimes you're not even running the heater, the AC, especially not on full blast. So you're running that truck just to get a little mist, just a little bit of a fan going. Bunk heaters or APUs are only going to burn maybe a gallon, probably, in that same 10 to 12 hour period. I know APUs are expensive. They cost 10 to 15, but you do that math and you're basically going to break even year one. not to mention wear and tear on your truck. Bunk heaters are a lot cheaper. So if you're running northern states, that might be a little more cost effective than an APU. If you don't need the AC all the time, down south, I would sure be getting an APU rather than just a bunk heater, because then you're only doing half the job. You're only doing winter, not summer too. Again, depends on where you run. So the next thing, two biggest factors for your fuel is going to be idling and your speed, your idle hours and your speed. To go 65 miles an hour compared to 80 miles an hour, you're talking about a 20% reduction. Again, it all depends on terrain, gear ratio, on and on and on. It all depends. But at $5 fuel, this could be another 10 to 15 grand difference throughout the year. Now, right when you're doing it, you just want to get there, get picked up, get unloaded, do whatever. You're just kind of trying to get there faster. And you think, well, I'll just make more loads throughout the year and do that. I can make more money because I'm going faster. But look at those numbers right there, 10 to 15 grand. That's kind of like taking 2 weeks off. And so literally you might be able to get a few more loads done, but are you going to get, and it all depends on the size of your runs, but are you really going to be able to make up 2 weeks worth of running by going just a little bit faster every day? Maybe, maybe not. But being cool might end up costing you about 15 grand for the year. And 15 grand is the difference between making money and not making money. For some places, geographically and business model, propane is just, that could be huge savings. It's do a little research on that. That's pretty interesting. That would be, if you could do those conversions and be in a situation where that would work, your fuel cost changes dramatically. And then we're going to get into some other stuff that's going to help more on the spending side. This is going to be the deadwood. This is going to be the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to fuel savings. Obviously, the newer truck you have, the less fuel it's going to burn. But even that aside, you can buy different wings and different plastic pieces to funnel air, but you're shooting a BB gun at a freight train, where these two things are actually going to move the needle for you. But fuel cards, certain cards are only good at certain places. We mentioned that some cards offer more discount than others, but the biggest thing when it comes to fuel cards is be very clear on their terms. I know some fuel cards, they're taking fuel out twice a week. So you need to be sure that you can cover that. If you think you've got time to get money for that load, you might not. So it just really sucks when you put out an invoice and you don't get paid for 90 days, but yet you've had to pay for fuel twice a week for every load that entire time. Certain cards are accepted a lot of places. Some cards are only at a few places. Like if you go to the truck stop to get a fuel card, like a Flying J or Pilot Loves, any of those, they're only good at that, at those companies. Loves is only good at Loves, and Flying J Pilot's only good at them. TA the same way. So, but if you get something like a Fuel Man, a CFN, an EFS, those are the only ones I've used. Fuel Man, CFN. No, I had an EFS and a WEX, and any of those are good more places. And so you can not only go to the Flying J, Pilot, all those things, keep some shower credits up, keep going like that, but it's good at other places as well. Obviously, the more fuel you can buy, the cheaper price you're going to get. So there are a bunch of group buying programs, apps, different clubs you can join to kind of help on fuel. And sometimes those can be significant, 5 to 10 cents a gallon. And, all those things really add up throughout the year. If you're, and again, this has everything to do with the position, your positioning, but if you're more of a local, and you're kind of working for just a few bigger players, you might be able to just have them give you a fuel card and they take it out of your pay because you're working for them a lot. And then you get those discounts that they get just by buying bigger or more gallons. Also, your broker or your dispatcher might have some thoughts on and have some programs they're aware of. Also, like if you were to lease on with a company with your authority or theirs, they'll offer fuel cards and you can piggyback off of those things. Friends joining together. I do know a couple guys who did that. There are about 4 of them and it worked, but it gets really messy bookkeeping wise, who owes what, and somebody's late. It gets real ugly, but there's options. Obviously, the more you buy, the better deal you get. IFTA, International Fuel Tax Agreement. If you're not sure what this is, you have to do your IFTAs 4 times a year. It's designed to get each state their fair share of taxes. If you're in one state and always fuel, but most of your miles are in the neighboring state, and you come back every day and keep fueling in the one state, the state that you're running in but not buying any fuel, they're upset. Everyone's involved in IFTA except for New Mexico and Oregon. For some reason, they're just special. It's just extra layers of BS. It's a sore point with me. It's irritating. And so, but they have their own little programs that you need to go through if you're going to run in those states. It's not prohibitive. It's just another pain in the butt, but you can do it. In each state, you need to track your mileage in the state and your gallons bought in each state. And then when you do your quarterly returns or your quarterly reports, they then divide where you bought fuel, where you didn't buy fuel, where you ran miles, where you didn't run miles. They divide it all fairly. And it's due, your reports are due the last day following the month that ends the quarter. So your IFTAs are due the end of April, July, October, and January because it's the end of the quarter and it's the month following. So as an example, quarter 1 is January 1st to March 31st. So your IFTA report is due April 30th, and those go to your state. It's a federal program, but your state is where you report your IFTA returns. And there's a ton of stuff out there on how to do it. If you need more help, I can help you. So the homework for this fuel section are, what are your current fuel costs? And what can you do to get them lower? One way or the other, what can you do? So anyways, there it is for fuel.